So this is your time. How would you like to spend the session this week? What's been happening for you?
I would like to talk about my corporate career side, where we just recently restructured. It's never ending, this restructuring anyway. That's another topic. But so I just wanted to. I have now a larger team, but that team is something that the area I don't know the knowledge of. So I worry, how will I be able to manage people who know and have much stronger technical skills than I do, and hardly know what they do even. So I've just been put in this unfortunate situation. The area that I used to manage, I perfectly can do anybody's job there, but this one is a kind of mystery for me. So I worry about that side. And also my new boss after restructure seems to be a very difficult person. So, yeah.
Okay, so I understand the point about having that sort of lack of expertise in a section that you're managing, and also understand about having a challenging manager or boss. So what kind of thing would you like to do today to sort of address that?
Well, generally, it's like leadership. What can I do as a leader now? I've got a much larger team. How can I make sure that I'm a good leader? It's quite scary for me at the moment. I really need help with that.
Right.
And I have, I know that you're good on the leadership. So would you be able to help me with that today?
Sure. Well, I have a leadership model that I've developed. Is that something we can go over briefly and then see how we can use that to sort of... Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So, firstly, let me just give it to you.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
So it's called the Leadership Matrix. It's something that I came up with a few years ago. Looking at it, I will kind of go through a sort of kind of quick way of explaining it to you. But is there anything that pops out that doesn't seem intuitively to make sense to you at all?
Well, there are 9 characters, and then the 10th character on the top, and there are various columns. So it would be good to
kind of go through it.
Yeah.
All right. So the way I found the easiest way to kind of explain it, a slightly unusual approach, is: can you think of someone who's a leader who you're impressed with?
Yes.
And is it a he or a she?
It's a she.
Super.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk through this with respect to her.
Mm-hmm.
So starting with the compass, is she somebody who is good at sort of holding a vision, somehow holds a kind of corporate vision, but also somehow holds also a vision for her own team, her own department? Is she somebody who in some senses you want to follow, you feel she's engaged and she has a sense of kind of purpose and direction in life?
Yes, I would like to be in her shoes, actually, when I think about the way, I always think would you behave actually in this situation.
So in terms of her own leadership, would you say she has a strong compass in the way I've described it?
Yes, she's got definitely within the restraints of the corporate world, of course, because she's got a good understanding and direction within the department, but obviously it's under an umbrella of corporate compass.
Great.
Yes.
So, each one of these archetypes has a sort of shadow. A shadow, if I can explain it, is sometimes a sort of more negative manifestation of that. So you wouldn't say that she kind of overdoes the leadership thing, where she's constantly talking about vision and mission and values and somehow winding people up or anything like that?
She doesn't, but there are lots of people that do.
Okay. So it's kind of sometimes worth acknowledging that as well. With regard to the boss, is she somebody who can gently but firmly assert her needs and express what she wants?
Yes, she's really good. She's obviously, and also especially because she's a female, she's got female energy, but boss energy. So you don't see that often in the businesses, but she's really grounded, really strong, and really delivers the message well without coming across aggressive. I think it's good.
Great.
She holds her own. I really like that. Yeah.
So coach energy is a sense where the kind of modern leader has a sense of engagement with their team. They maybe talk less and listen more. They encourage people to work out their own projects and sort of just kind of allow somebody to talk it through and work it out for themselves with less intervention. Would you say she has that sort of coach energy?
She's good as a coach. Yes, I approached her in the past, and she is good. She's got slightly, well, I have heard from others that she doesn't necessarily have enough time. So I don't know. From my perspective, she's good, but I have heard that she could be sometimes not. Maybe it's favoritism. I don't know.
Okay, well that's interesting. So from your perspective, it isn't the case, but is then there a sense that I mean that's also an interesting point, that if other people have said that about her, then then that's an interesting thing about how much does she value it, or is it something she tends to use mainly with people who she favours?
Exactly.
That's interesting. Okay, so can we go on the next column? So operations and finance, the first one is the architect. This is the kind of leadership attribute where somebody has a sort of mechanistic vision. They love creating processes and procedures, continual improvement. They really want things to be excellent. And they have a kind of passion for making the business better and better.
I don't think she's got passion for it. She's good at delegating to people who do it well, and then she can sort of call on them with that. So that's kind of at that level. In corporate world, she is just making sure that things are working, and she notices things are not working, then she'll ask the particular person who is responsible for the processes.
Right, so she's good at managing a team of people who are doing processes,
Yes.
but would you say I suppose the point about this energy is there a passion for that kind of thing?
I don't think she's got passion for it.
Right.
She's just making sure that it doesn't fall.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's, often leaders who don't have enough of that tend not to sort of, they don't tend to build, it for me a very, very important feature. Can I take off my hat in some senses as a coach and put on my one as a mentor? I mean, it's my personal belief that if it's more interesting than Compass. It's more interesting to talk about values and vision and mission and all this. It's a more kind of intellectually and emotionally stimulating area. But in business, when you show up, at a shop or, in a restaurant or wherever it may be, you want the product to be delivered elegantly and well. You're not so interested in that, you don't want them to be spending 90% of their time on values. You want them to be spending 90% of their time, on making sure that the thing works well. So I do think it is to me one of the key ingredients of a successful leader is a passion for this mechanistic thing. So it's just a sort of an interesting thing to sort of share with you. What about the express train? Is she somebody who kind of really, she makes things happen?
Yes, definitely.
And that sort of implied what that is. The alarm bell. Would you say that she knows when the difference between there's a genuine crisis as against to the sort of day-to-day pressures and things in business?
Yeah, she's quite grounded. She wouldn't just flip about the little thing, but if there is something wrong, she would call on that. Yeah.
That's really great. It's great to hear that, yeah. And then moving to the last one, the radar. So has she spent a long time in the sector? Is she familiar with it?
I would say yes.
And would you say that she understands the sort of patterns of, the market and what people are wanting and shifts in the market and how the market is changing, how markets in some ways go more online or require this or whatever?
But she also gets external consultants that help her with that a lot. So we've got budget for that and she uses that pretty well. She also got some marketing manager that really looks after this area. So they spend a lot of time together discussing it. So I wouldn't say that's her background, but she's got it covered in a way.
And again, do you think she has a passion or a sense of that?
I think so, yes.
The next one is a fox.
She's good.
I don't even have to say that.
I know,
it's
yes,
obvious.
foxes. Yes, I can see. But anyway, please do. Maybe I'm misunderstanding fox, but...
Well, I mean, I think a Fox is somebody who genuinely likes doing business. She likes to do deals. She wants, she wants revenue to come in. She wants to sort of put out products and services, and she loves all that aspect. But she's also a bit of a street smart person. She plays real politics in the organisation. She knows what she needs to do to
A
win.
lot of that, yes, politics she's very good at. But yes, so I did understand.
That's exactly what you did.
Good description, like the Fox.
And finally, there's the friend. Would you say that she has a great network of people inside the business, but also outside?
Yes, she does. Not within just only, but outside as well. Within whole business, she's quite popular in a way that, very impressive actually.
So you say she's a likable person?
Yes, she definitely is.
Great. So looking at all this, there's the last one in the corner, the conductor. If you think about her, is she kind of fairly well balanced across these things? Or is she kind of a bit more leadership orientated, a bit more operations orientated, a bit more sales and marketing
I would
operated?
say she's more leadership and sales oriented, and slightly less operations and finance.
Right.
Finance maybe more, but operations less.
So that's interesting. So there is, I mean, we're not coaching her today, but there's an interesting piece there for her own development, possibly, that you can reflect on that.
Potentially, yes.
But we're not here to. She's not our client today, so we can sort of press on. So now let's use the model, to sort of as a sort of aid memoir for your own kind of points that you made earlier. But is there any questions or concerns you have about the model before we begin?
I think it's pretty clear actually. Yes, it would be nice to. I know what's coming probably next.
So maybe we could choose one of those topics you mentioned earlier, either the boss or the difficulty you said about suddenly being sort of given a whole new team to manage in an area you're less technically familiar with.
Yes, so let's start with a difficult boss, because he's pretty new to me, or I'm new to him, and I find he's different, very different from my previous boss. Yes, and I find him very difficult. Shall I say what the issue is? Really?
Sure, absolutely.
So what I find him is he's quite a lot of like talking about things, vision, and himself quite lazy, delegates quite a lot, and very demanding, but very bad at coach, for example, or yin energy actually. Very good at Fox, but anyway, so he's kind of difficult character in a way, demands a lot, lazy himself, and very, very political, highly political.
So you said he's not a great coach, not a great friend. Does he have an alarm bell? Is he aware?
I would say yes. Alarm bell is yes, but again, it depends on his team to raise alarm. I think he's quite lucky with having good direct reports in a way. For now.
Okay. So look, the way this sort of coaching process works is you now described the problem from his perspective. Let's now describe it from your perspective, maybe using those archetypes. So you're in a situation where you see what?
I see a leader who's got very strong boss, but not in a positive way. What is it then?
Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier this idea of a shadow.
Yes.
I mentioned that the idea that the shadow of the compass would be this then where somebody is always lecturing people about vision and that they find it sort of irritating. The shadow of the boss, I would call the bully, is somebody who, has a sort of, I don't know, for whatever reason, has a value set that you have to sort of, I don't know, intimidate and pressurize people and stuff like that. But that usually means that they don't have a good grounded energy. They can't kind of express their needs in a sort of kind of fairly clear way. So would you say then, so you would say that he has this?
Yes, bully is a good description.
Okay. But what about yourself? What is happening for you in all this? So maybe try and kind of place Anna
I
onto that
don't
matrix.
have a good boss when I'm in a relationship with him.
Okay.
I find, yes.
Great. So you find you're lacking a boss in the relationship with him. Anything else that you notice?
he puts a lot of sort of express train energy on me, which kind of unrealistic at times. And then also with regards to my team, he asks me to do assessment of my. He's quite negative about some of my team members, and I feel that I need to do a lot of, kind of that. Protect my team members, because I don't think that his criticism is actually has grounding.
So, in terms of sort of navigating your way, what could you do differently? Because I mean, I suppose the point is that you've talked a little bit about him and yourself, but you haven't talked that much about yourself. I mean, so maybe reflect what you could do. If you like, we could jump around it a bit. But I've noticed that you've used the boss and the express train in reaction to his kind of bully kind of expression and over pushing you. I'd say the shadow of the express train is bulldozer, pushing too hard. So I understand the problem, but how would you kind of try and find a solution to this? So maybe put yourself in that conductor space, say, okay, I've got a difficult boss, what are your options? What can you do?
Well, I either find a way how to manage my manager, or I walk away.
Okay.
There are two options I see.
So let's explore. Manage your manager. Which energy would you say that is?
Well, boss wouldn't help me because we'll just clash. Probably foxy, being foxy, fox.
So a bit of fox.
Being like more kind of fox.
Okay. Can I challenge you on the idea that that if somebody is a bully, although you don't necessarily need to bully them back, sometimes you can just sort of be kind of grounded with that energy and just sort of kind of repeat your position, but just express your needs. I mean, is that something that you sort of feel you can't do, or is that?
I can do, and I've been doing it, but it results in conflict because he's got just one way of seeing things, and if you even rationally bring examples of it, you say, no, that's the way. There are certain things that I can't really disclose, the corporate things, but there are certain things that he says, that's what needs to be done, and I just don't find that helpful.
So you said something around Fox. So maybe Fox implies you would do things which are more kind of, I don't know, influencing, perhaps slightly cunning. What ideas could you come up with to help influence him?
Well, I've got this manager's manager that is very, she's very skilled. She would be the one that I would like to be like when I get when I get to that level. And she is higher than, she's his boss.
Right.
So I could ask for coaching sessions maybe with her.
And how would you go about that?
Well, they've got leadership program within the business, and you could have a coach. So I can ask her, maybe she will be willing. I know she's busy, but within the business, one of the things they need to do well is manage people, be good coaches, and that's the program. So she might take me on.
That certainly sounds very clever. And once you did that, do you think that would have that once he got wind of that he would maybe fall into line a bit, or what?
I think he might be more careful about how he conducts his business.
So this was the person that you did the modelling on before, is it?
The lady, yes.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's a prophetic kind of little process to go through.
I know.
The other option you said was about leaving. Is that what are the how could you go about that?
There are two options of leaving the company or leaving to a different department.
Sure.
So there are always job opportunities within the company. So I think will be easier potentially to step aside. It's just making this decision whether I want to step aside or step out. Yes. So yeah, looking for job opportunities on HR online.
And where would that be in terms of an archetype or one of these characters?
Radar and Fox Energy, so I'll use for that. Yes.
What are the potential, kind of looking at the alarm bell, what could be the negative consequences of you leaving the role? Are there any?
Well, if my boss finds out that I'm looking for a job and I don't want him yet, that might have negative consequences on it, because it might become difficult. And I also generally I want to give my role a try. You know, I don't want to jump. I've been in a role for quite a while, but now my role has expanded, so effectively it's a new role. So I'd like to give it a try, and when it's on my CV, you know, at least show that I've spent like at least a couple of years on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of interesting third question just on this. Imagine the lady you described, your manager's manager, as you put it. If she went into Conductor and she was facing a similar problem to you, what would you think she would do to deal with this guy, your manager, if she was being managed by him? See what I mean? I mean,
she definitely would do what I originally said about getting some kind of coaching or some contacts with the area outside. She could potentially would start some kind of initiative within the department or interdepartmental initiative whereby she would be seen to be driving something new, and that way she creates connections at similar or higher level than my boss, and it seemed like she's kind of on a positive, on a radar of other people.
right.
There. So then the boss becomes careful a bit. Okay, you know, we better not, better be more careful.
So what are there any initiatives that you could do in the same way?
I could see, yes, I could see. There are a couple of projects that I can get involved in. It's just finding the time for it.
Great. So is there anything else, do you sort of feel you have a little bit of an answer for that issue for today? Is there anything else you'd like to work on?
I think that's helpful for now. I will give it a go. I think approaching my boss's boss would be good. Yeah.
Great. So is there, the other thing you mentioned was around this taking on this new role. Would you like to also use the model to discuss that?
Yes. So what happened with my career generally is I grew from quite technical role into my team expanded within first 2 years. I started managing smaller team, then 5 years medium size. Now after restructure and being 7 to 8 years in the role, it became like really large. I never managed such a large team. That's scary for me. And secondly, area which I managed, I know inside out. I can do everything that the most junior staff member does. While this new role, what they do is completely new to me. So what I feel, I'm quite intimidated there because I'm managing people that are technically much stronger. Well, in fact, brilliant. And I don't know much about that business side.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll make a sort of, similar observation. So can you express that thing you just did, but use the archetypes? So in your previous role, you were...
I was a very good architect.
You were a very good architect.
Mm-hmm.
And in your new role, you're...
In my new role, I'm supposed to be a conductor managing architects that are better than me, so I find it difficult.
Now, I'm sorry to sort of use this example again, but the lady you mentioned earlier, the woman who was your kind of, the person you'd like to get coaching from, would she have a similar issue to you in terms of managing?
Well, not at all. She didn't come from that side of She doesn't have technical skills at all, actually. No.
So I suppose there's sort of 2 points which come here. I mean, again, using the model, is it a case that you need to find a way to, you know, at least somewhat increase your skill set in this area, so that, but is there also a way, also something around your beliefs about skill set?
Yes, I know where you're getting in terms of, because if she's boss is not technical, then how does she manage such a large team successfully? Okay, so I don't have to necessarily have such a strong technical skills in that area. I just need to understand business overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is also, if I can I kind of put on my hat now as a sort of leader, ship development kind of mentor. I think that if I was to say the journey of leadership is generally you become a specialist as an architect in a specific area, and you start managing people. You know, the first step in business is to manage those people with a similar skill set to you. But ultimately, you will move up to a position where you start incorporating other areas, other areas of operations. I mean, obviously, say a CEO would also have to manage a finance function under them. They may not be an accountant. They might have to manage a sales and marketing function, and they may not be in sales and marketing. So, you know, as you move up the corporate ladder, in some senses, the idea of the conductor is a kind of an interesting thing. Is, do you need to become brilliant at everything in business to be able to be an effective leader?
Well, according to this model, not brilliant, but you need to have knowledge, you know, this area.
Some knowledge, but I suppose then the question is it, you know, there's a kind of different knowledge between being able to manage someone doing something to the knowledge that you need to have to do it yourself really well. And can you kind of, you know, standing back, I mean, thinking of this lady you mentioned earlier, do you think she can work out that difference?
Yes, she definitely does.
So what stops you from doing that?
I don't know, it's just the belief that yes, I need to know maybe a bit too much hands-on approach to things, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's a sort of, you know, the inevitable truth of success in business, in a corporate business is you will naturally start managing areas where you're not an expert. That doesn't stop you necessarily gaining some knowledge in it. And I would argue, from my own experience, again, if I can share a story, is I've found, just like you said about this lady earlier, that by bringing in consultants or discussing with specialists or even discussing with people in your team who are really good, you begin to get a sense of what they do. I think everything in business isn't that complicated. It's not, you know, you may not be able to write a program, but you can understand what a program does. You may not be able to design a supply chain kind of matrix, but you understand the principles. So I think, you know, I think the thing about it is just to become more, you know, you move from being a specialist to a generalist, but the generalist still needs to understand the principles, because otherwise, you know, that can be unhelpful. So what could you do differently to be able to sort of engage yourself in these areas that you're less familiar with?
I've got very good, I'm quite lucky of having very good direct reports. They're very knowledgeable, and they've got similar journey to me in terms of getting it from very bottom, you know, so they kind of grow within the organization and they really know the area well. So I need to become very friends and folks maybe with them to gain their trust and also to gain their knowledge, you know. But at a higher level of it, I don't need to actual work, as you said, technical work myself.
Great. So knowing all that, I mean, do you have a sort of, how would you say, what's your take on it now?
Well, it was quite interesting to see that, you know, my belief in the past was that I need to know technical side quite well, but actually I now understand that for one to become, you know, higher up you go, less and less specific technical skills, you know, your technical skills become less important and your managerial skills become more important.
Absolutely.
And would you say then it becomes more important to be better at leadership and sales and marketing in corporate world than operate, or not really?
I don't think necessarily. I think the point is that your job as a leader, in some senses, is to be able to make sure that the organisation is has the right balance of those qualities in it.
Mm-hmm.
So where you have a business which is very sales and marketing orientated but doesn't deliver, their reputation begins to suffer, and they tend to get into trouble. So, but likewise, if you have one that doesn't have enough sales and marketing activity, it tends not to earn enough money, and then that also gets into trouble. So I think that the job in leadership is just to make sure that all of these things, that's the conductor, works well. And also so the conductor is saying that with leadership, you also want to make sure that there's a kind of culture in your organization that, is helpful and constructive. Because if you're competing in this world with other organizations which have got superior cultures and people are working more effectively together, and they're not sort of running around trying to protect themselves from everyone else, then you have inefficiency. An efficient culture is where you have an open and good culture. People are spending much more of their time working rather than sort of protecting themselves. So that I think that this, when you have the balance right, you then have a kind of a winning business, and then you just keep rising. The business rises, and so do the leaders.
It makes sense.
And also it maybe maps a journey for you, because if you're now kind of at the moment, which of those, forgetting the kind of archetypes for a moment, but would you say your role is more leadership, or your role is more operations and finance, or your role is more sales and marketing?
Well, I think it's overall my role is to become a good conductor with all these elements within the team. So I need to kind of make sure as a manager I've got the right people, where the not looking at necessarily individually myself within the corporate environment. It's that the team itself has got all these right components within, and I'm the good conductor, seeing if there are any weaknesses, bringing the right people in the right place and putting the right emphasis at the right time if there are some issues.
Great. Well, that sounds very good to me. Well, I think our time is fast approaching the end, but it's important that I'll take a couple of moments. So firstly, next time round, we'll be meeting again, but between now and then, what's your kind of takeaways from today? What have you?
Well, exactly what I just said, that in terms of, conductor is the important role for me, and then to take actually that approach and being able to see all of these are the skills that my team has in the right place, and I don't have to have technical skills necessarily. I was putting too much emphasis on architect actually, and it shouldn't be the case.
Well, that's something else that you've taken away. Anything else you've taken away from the thing with your challenging manager?
Oh yes, well, I'm thinking that although I need to engage my Fox energy in the relation, I don't feel very comfortable with that. It's not kind of part of my nature to become like, I find it very uncomfortable.
And what about the friend? Is that also part of it? That's you're more comfortable with that? In terms of like influencing this lady, or? Not so much either. Yeah, I will feel what will she think if I approach her and all that. So it's kind of putting myself out like that. I feel like it's not very congruent with myself. Great. Well, if I can make an observation as well, I mean, have you had a sales and marketing role in your career? No. So, I mean, I think that's, as you said earlier about the conductor and moving things around, I think there's also worth exploring a bit about, that you've obviously avoided going down that road a bit, possibly not, but it's certainly a road which will be helpful for you to engage in the same way as these other areas. And I'm also curious about that thing you said about feeling uncomfortable in that sort of Fox role, or to some extent friend. So there is an NLP process. I've explained a little bit NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, something that I can do, which might help unpack that. We don't have time for that today, but maybe think it over, and in the next session we could do something around that if that's of help to you.
Sure, that will be useful. Thank you so much.
Great. So, is there anything that I could have done differently, or more of, less of, that's really helpful?
No, it's been really a helpful session. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing this
Well,
really useful model.
but
Really
my
good. I think
pleasure.
every single leader should have that, really.
I'm hoping so. But this is your time, Anna. So, is there anything else you'd like to say to feel complete with our session today?
No, thank you so much, Rory.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.